What's your craziest one night stand story? NSFW. About a week after I got dumped, I posted a shirtless picture on our 4R subreddit and a girl in my city was interested. We exchanged pictures and arranged a drinking date. Met for drinks. Seemed to like each other fine. Agreed to go to her place. On the way there, she stopped at a pharmacy and bought lube. Went upstairs to her condo. We start fooling around. Clothing comes off and we start ducking. A few minutes in, she gets up and says, "You know what I love about one night stands? I don't have to be someone I'm not. I'm going to go do some drugs. Do you want some drugs?" Proceeds to bump coke off her kitchen table. We duck again. She threatens to kill me twice throughout as dirty talk. Walk home in a daze. Pretty confused about life and feeling soul drained. Buy a burrito. Bump into a friend I hadn't seen in almost 10 years who'd apparently moved next door. Weird night. Not me, but my best friend in college had been speaking to this girl on Tinder and they eventually met up one night. One thing led to another and they ended up back at hers. They started going at it when suddenly the girl ran out of the room and started being violently sick in the bathroom. Turned out she hadn't been feeling well all day. My friend put her to bed. Got her a glass of water etc. Asked the girl if she wanted him to stay. She said no, and then he left. To get out of her student flat he had to exit through the kitchen. He ran into the girl's roommate, who my friend had met previously. They started chatting in the kitchen and then start having sex. Turns out the girl's roommate also fancied the pants off my pal. As they were just getting into it though, the girl asked them to stop, then she ran to the bathroom to also be violently sick. Turns out both roommates had food poisoning from their dinner the night before. One time my friend John and I drove a couple hours to Boston for an old friend's birthday party that we hadn't seen in a while. It starts as a house party and after that sort of dies down we decided to go hit some bars. I hit it off with a girl, so we broke off from the group and stayed the night at her place. Next morning I wake up, get dressed, and head out into the kitchen. I almost hit a ducking brick because who is sitting at the table? Ducking John. We, completely unknown to each other, went home with girls who happened to be roommates. She came over in the morning. We ducked. She made me watch the first episode of Gossip Girls. I fell asleep for 6 hours. When I woke up she was still sitting in the same position. Her phone died while I was asleep and she didn't bring her charger. So she sat there doing absolutely nothing for however long. I had to have my grandma call me so I could tell her I had to leave. She offered to stay at my house while I was at my grandma's. I did not know her at all. When I was an 18-year-old virgin, I worked at a store in a shopping mall. There was a car insurance place a few doors down from our store, and there was a woman that worked there that was about 28 years old, and a solid 10/10. She had this real sexy librarian thing going, glasses, hair always in a ponytail, or braided pigtails. I joked with my buddies a few times that I should ask her out. One day she was in our store and after chatting a while, she made a comment about it being a while since the last time she got laid, and she made it somewhat clear that I had a shot. I decided I was going to do something I never thought I had the balls to do. During closing time I went over to her store and asked her straight up, "Me, got any plans after work?" Her, "Nope." Me, "Wanna duck?" Her, "Yes I do." I have no recollection of how good it was. It was my first time, so I was just happy to get my D sucked. The next morning, she asks me if I could drive her 9-year-old kid to school. Most awkward drive of my life. Few days later, she is in the mall shopping and brings her kid by my store to say hi. I didn't know how to deal with this. It seemed like I trapped myself. The next day I told her that I didn't feel mature enough for her, and I didn't want to continue seeing her. I was pretty close to chickening out from that conversation, and just quitting my job and disappearing. Girl from Tinder hits me up at 3:30 AM and asks to come over. Obviously a booty call. I gave her my address. She comes in with a huge ass duffel bag that has wow characters all over it. I thought it was pretty dope, until she pulled actual dope out of it and proceeded to shoot up on my couch. She spent the next 45 minutes picking at her face in my mirror and throwing up in my bathroom. I told her she had to leave. When I was in college I got a phone call from this girl I occasionally hung out with. She was in my college town with some friends. and said they had a hotel room with 3 girls but there were only 2 guys, and would I like to come over? I did. I had a girl stop me mid-pump to get up and go home because she was hungry. I stayed over at a co-worker's house due to terrible weather after work one time. Her husband was out of town, but he told me not to worry about it over the phone. We played a few board games with her kids and lost track of time. She took the kids to bed and I headed for the guest room. I had work the next day and was exhausted, so I only took off my shoes and passed out immediately. I wanted to get up early so I could shower and try to get to work before everyone else woke up, so my alarm went off while it was still dark. I obviously woke in an unfamiliar room and swung my legs out of bed, smashing my toes into the nightstand. I started bleeding everywhere and my toenail popped off. Everyone in the house woke up to my incident. She ended up driving me to urgent care as we could not get my toe to stop bleeding, but took 2 hours due to the snow. Back when Yik Yak was a thing, a girl said she wanted a guy to watch a movie with and also hook up with. This was over spring break, so campus was dead. I was at my apartment next to campus because I had an internship and she was a foreign exchange student staying on campus. Anyway, I respond to her and we comment back and forth, then exchange Snapchats. She ends up being pretty cute, and since I had a roommate and she didn't, I made the trek across campus to her place. It ends up she has a bunk bed. It was like a top bunk with her desk underneath type of setup. So I climb up and we squeeze together in her twin size bunk bed. 5 minutes into the movie, we start going at it. It went about 2 hours, which is not a brag because I did not have the cardio to last that long. I barely made it out alive. We were trying every position we could, but when the roof was only 6 inches above me, it was really tough. We eventually make it to the end, and I walked to the hall bathroom to clean up. I woke up early for my internship, so we said bye and went on our merry way. I didn't hear from her or see her again until she texted me during finals asking if I stole her passport. I didn't, because who would do such a thing? Went to a buddy's wedding, held in our mutual hometown of 12k people. Bride was in an optometry program and had a number of friends from the program in attendance. At the reception, I proceed to tie one on. They had a margarita bar and kegs, so it was that kind of affair, and hit it off with one of the bride's optometry friends. Our group decides to depart and hit the town, which constituted going to the towny bar down the street and drinking until we were plowed. I talk the girl into walking up the hill to my parents, who were at the wedding reception house, stopping for multiple gross macchiatos along the way. We get there and do our thing in my childhood bed, and I promptly pass out. I wake up in the morning, vaguely recalling some of the previous night's events, and am totally shocked to see this girl in my bed, situated just down the hall from my parents' bedroom. My stirring wakes her and she takes one look at me and says, "You're gonna have to sneak me out of here, aren't you?" I replied, "Yeah." She was totally cool with it. I went out and took the lay of the land. My parents were already up and in the kitchen, but I had an avenue to get her out unseen and took my shot. She was on it and we made it out clean. I took her to breakfast and found her a ride home, because it was way further than I was going to drive and I had a buddy heading that way. My parents didn't find out for years, and it was way too late for them to be pissed when they finally did. Always appreciated that girl's effort. I had a one night stand and a BJ the morning after, on a cruise ship. We were flirting up at the bar late one evening, and went on a walk around the ship. We ended up going up the helipad at the front of the boat and started getting a little heavy. We went ahead and did the damn thing, only to realize after that the entire bridge crew could clearly see us ducking at the front of the boat like a dirty Titanic reenactment. The next day she came by my cabin and we had a round two on the balcony of my cabin. I got blown while enjoying the view of the Caribbean Sea in the morning sunshine. It was pretty damn great. Not me, but my college roommate. He went to a party one night, got wasted, and brought back an equally wasted girl back for some fun times. We had paper thin walls in our apartment so I could usually hear everything, so I just popped in my earbuds and played some WoW. I hear screaming next and not the six kind. Apparently not 30 seconds in, she threw up all over him and his bed. Odd part is they ended up dating a while later. It wasn't supposed to be a one night stand. We had worked together for roughly a year and he spent the entire time thinking I was a lesbian. To be fair, he was half right. He finds out from his roommate, our boss, that I'm not, and he asks for my number. We flirty text for a while. I'm really digging this dude. He finally asks me to meet him and some friends for New Year's Eve. We meet up, get completely it-faced and spend the whole night all over each other. We go back to his place. We proceed to break the bed frame and forget that his windows are open. So the entire neighborhood heard everything. In the process of breaking the bed, I had fallen and bruises the entire left side of my hip, back, leg, butt. But we can't tell anyone at work. No dating policy. So we decide to keep it under wraps. We keep talking, keep texting. Things seem great. I move into a new place and we talk about christening the apartment. Then Friday comes along and he leaves for lunch and never comes back. Our co-workers are calling the hospitals and police departments. This isn't like him. Or so we thought. He turns up over 2 days later, knocking on his roommate's door at 3 AM, explaining that he spent his entire paycheck and bank account on strippers and coke. He is promptly shipped off the rehab in New York. He calls me from the airport to apologize and swears I'll be the first person he calls in 90 days. That was January of 2009. Never did get that phone call, but I did recently see him on Facebook and he looks happy and clean. So I'm happy for him. I'm a single gay man and sometimes I drink too much wine and think about how nice a big oldie would be and end up on Grindr. One time, I got on Grindr and started chatting with Darren, a nice African American guy with a fat D and a wicked sense of humor. And he decides he wants to come to Big Danny's house of Hawaii to get the business. While arranging the D appointment, Marty, a different guy, messages me trying to get action as well. I tell Marty that I have found my D for the night but I'll hit him up another time. Anyway, Darren says he's gonna take a shower because I don't suck dirty D. But his shower takes forever and he says he's on the way, but Grindr keeps saying he's 8 miles away, so I left Marty know that he can come get some of this. 15 minutes later, I'm standing outside smoking a cigarette when Darren and Marty show up at the exact same time. It's hella awkward and I'm drunk and I try to explain that I wasn't being shady. I just thought Darren had flaked. Darren says well we can all go inside. Marty happily agrees. And I spend the next 20 minutes with a dude in both ends trying to get them to come quickly because I feel hella awkward and don't know any other way to get out of my first threesome. And that's my wildest one night stand. She let me put it in the butt. Unfortunately she didn't prep and probably needed it before we got started. Because when we turned the lights on and there was it smeared everywhere. Told this before. But I lost my virginity in a one night stand with a girl I just met at a bar. We ended up ducking behind some bushes in front of an apartment building at like 3 AM. Went 2 rounds. Anyone could have seen us if they passed by but no one did. Although just before that some guys passed by in a car while she was giving me a BJ at a park nearby and started cheering and hollering. We were both very drunk. Late to the party but here it goes. I was celebrating my 25th day and went out. Met a cute guy and went back to his place. When we were on our way he explains me that he lives with his mom so I'll have to be quiet. I was like WTF. Okay. Whatever, I'm already here, in another city far from everywhere. So went into the house. Very quiet and we did the deed. Next morning I'm like okay, I need to leave cause my parents are waiting for me for day lunch. I lived 2 hours away in another city. So I planned my escape and when I'm coming down the stairs his mom is there and says hi. Long story short I ended up having breakfast with her. Told her it was my day so she made some really good eggs and toasts for me and we were having really nice conversation when I told her I needed to leave and I had no idea how. And she explained me everything. Super cool mom. Never saw the guy again but I'll never forget that day. Celebrarian. Met this girl and sang her Brown Eyed Girl on the grass behind a strip club and then ate and fingered her ass all night. When the ex and I had just broke up we went our separate ways and I got with her younger cuter sister for a fun night. But she ended up having an adventure also. I heard she ended up with this guy who had a leaky faucet in his bathroom. I know this because she confessed to me coming over the day after to pick up some clothes. That she said she pissed the bed in some dude's house because he left his faucet going. Now she carries a backpack in her car filled with clothes just to be safe. Said the guy was real mad she pissed his bed. So she took something valuable from him when he wasn't paying attention. She thinks he still doesn't know she did it. I wonder if he will ever find out. I hooked up with this girl who talked about her sister all the time while we were doing it. Apparently her sister's ex who she slept with after they broke up had the weirdest D she had ever seen. Also her sister pissed some dude's bed on a one night stand. She was crazy hot though. A friend and I who I met through work and ended up flatting with for 6 months went on a holiday to Fiji because he was going back to England soon. A group of girls from the States were staying at the backpackers we were staying at and we bumped into them and chatted with them a few times. One of the girls was very forward and after a night of bar hopping with the group I found myself with her in the open boot trunk of a taxi taking us back to our quarters. The taxi had a subwoofer that the girl happened to be leaning against and after a few minutes of music vibrating through her she gave me the duck look. She came back to our place and me and her started going at it in the main bedroom with my mate in the next room. As she was about to climax, she literally yelled, "Oh, God, finish me." The next day my mate was laughing at me and said, I don't know if you guys were having sex last night or playing Mortal Kombat on a Nintendo." For me it'd have to be one from a few years ago. Ran into a girl I knew from college while out at a bar with some friends. One thing led to another and we ended up back at my place. Everything went fine until I wake up the next day and this girl had pissed herself in my bed. I got the duck out of my own room and just sat stunned in my living room. Farmed out suggestions of what to do to a couple friends. Best suggestions were kick her out, burn your entire room, and leave and never go back. That's her apartment now. When I was much younger, picked up this petite woman at a bar in Valdosta. Head back to her house. Both of us a bit drunk. And have so drunk 6. Pass out. Get up a few hours later to piss. Go back to what I think is her room. Pass back out. Wake up being ridden by her slightly chubby roommate and have some of the best sex of my life. Girl was amazing. Original girl finds me in her roommate's bed and starts to pout. But eventually makes all of us breakfast. End up in an amazing threesome. Mainly due to chubby girl. And pass out again. Get woken up roughly and end up hiding in closet as roommate's estranged husband inspects house because it smelled like sex as he picks her up to go to marriage counseling. Turns out roommate's estranged husband is my new boss. I find this out when both of the girls I slept with just a week before show up at my work to take his truck. Get to spend a few hours listening to my boss complain about his wife and how much a rich she was being and how she was living a slut and how he was going to kill the next guy he caught her with. I quit my job the next day and got tested for VD. Went out clubbing for the first time and met a friend of a friend. Went back to her place and watched her 120 pounds girl snort line after line of coke off her bedside table. Around 4 AM her ex-boyfriend kicked in the door and surprise this dude is so high airplanes are brushing his toes. He wants to fight me and after a brief altercation realized this is a bad plan. He ends up leaving and the girl really wants me to stay and offers to let me snort coke off her ass. Worst part is I ended up seeing her again a few months later and the so-called ex showed up again and smashed her television with his fist. Might see her again for New Year's. Was running a pirate convention. Cosplay, and fair types, artists and musicians, etc. and met a guy. We clicked right away and I hung out with him and his friends into the wee hours of the morning singing pirate songs and drinking. Ended up telling him he could plunder my booty. Had raunchy and wonderful sexcapades in my corset and wench skirts. Spent the night with him in his hotel room. Went to lunch with him and his friends the next day. Found out he was only there because his friends dragged him to try and cure his depression because he was in the middle of a divorce. Ended up really enjoying himself and me. We kept in touch for a while. I still hear from him every few years by email. He's remarried now. I'm married too, but it was a fun romp. Oh geez. Met this girl at a bar and got her to come back to my place. Things were going well and everything was cool. Did the deed. Went to sleep. Woke up the next morning she was gone, which is cool. Right on. But my bed was soaked. Like damn it was wet. And I was thinking, man, I knew I did okay but I didn't lay some pipe that good, did I? So I got up and leaned over to smell it. Yep. That's piss. This girl wet my bed like a lot. I was pretty pissed. So I go back to the bar a couple days later with my buddy who's a regular there and told him the story and he says to me, oh yeah, She's a regular too and she's done that quite a few times and has a reputation now. We call her Water Gun. Jesus Christ. I've posted this before, but this is one of my better ones. Though I've Decibel had several that are as crazy if not crazier. Morth and Mortani think my best story is probably the twins. I've ducked 2 sets of twins BTW. Morth and Mortani was a waitress at Hooters and these twins came in with their parents. One was engaged and the other was single. His parents thought I was delightful and pushed their son to give me his number, which he did. That night I met up with him at his hotel room that he was sharing with his brother. We get freaky while his brother is in the next bed watching. My guy finishes and goes to the bathroom to flush the condom. While he's in there, the engaged twin lifts his blankets to show me his extremely erect D. My guy comes back through the room and goes on the balcony to smoke a cigarette. Gross. I walk out naked and tell him that his brother wants to duck me. He is in utter disbelief. I tell him what he just did, but he thinks I'm making it up or misread the situation. I bet him $100 that if I walked over to his brother right now, he would duck me. No questions asked. We shake and I walk inside and, without saying a word, rode him to completion. More than pulled $100 out of my guy's wallet, ducked him one more time and left. Meet at the club. She's drunk but her friends drive us back to her place. I wait for her to sober up because it makes me extremely uncomfortable. Have mediocre sex. She had this giant VCH piercing she must have been proud of but it clicks the teeth. Annoying. She drives me home afterward. Nickelback's Animals plays. She cranks it up and she gets into it. Talks about how we were animals last night. 100% noped. She gave me her number. Threw that it away. Ducking disappointed that I had sex with a Nickelback fan. I got spit roasted by 2 Asian ladyboys in Thailand. I was dating one of them and then one day she asked if I would sleep with her friend, who had a crush on me and was very interested in sleeping with a blonde, blue-eyed white man for the first time. The following Friday the friend came over to our apartment and I shagged her. Eventually I was on all fours on the bed sucking her D. At this point my ladyboy girlfriend joined in and she ominously began rubbing lube on my ass. Next thing I knew, her D was up my butt and she was pegging me as her friend was banging me in the mouth. I had sucked ladyboy D before, but that night was my first time taking D up my ass. I felt emasculated, but it was quite hot. The spit roasting ordeal only lasted about 5 minutes as my GF failed to hold her nut, probably because my virgin ass was so tight. Edit. Let me just say that those 2 ladyboys looked indistinguishable from real Thai females. No Western man could tell the difference. They were both very petite and both had lovely DD breasts. I'm a sucker for petite girls with massive fake teddies. My favorite porn actress is Nessa Devil. I lived in an old converted 2-family house, built in 1884. There were 4 apps on each side. All the apps were rented by HS friends and so one year we decided to have an open house Halloween party. I dressed as Fred Garvin. I had the hat, glasses, outfit, truss and business cards. Worked out a good Dan Aykroyd imitation and had a number of lines that I tried out on all the ladies that night. Well, mum, you see, when a VP like yourself comes here to do business, it's customary for the company to send a gal up to the room. Compliments of Great Lakes feed and grain, and, well, since you're a gal, the company sent me Fred Garvin, male prostitute, Hans business card. It made quite an impression because at the end of the night I found Wonder Woman in my bed. Needless to Fred Garvin earned his pay that night. Ask this group of people for a lighter at a strip club. This girl in the group, not a stripper, comes out to smoke with me. I'm wasted drunk. Next thing I know we are making out and we end up ducking in the janitor's closet with the door slightly open. This one stripper saw us go at it and just closed the door. Doesn't have to do with the actual sex part of it, but there was a female that worked for me that really wanted to sleep with me. I told her that I would get in trouble if I slept with a coworker. She literally turned in her 2-week notice during her next shift. She proceeded to get a job at Subway across the street from where I worked. And one night after I got off work, she came over and we banged it out. It was very flattering that she would get a second W4 for that year just for me. Haha. He stole my laptop. I didn't call the police because I didn't want to admit it was ons and I didn't know anything about the guy. I was on a crazy bender after a really bad breakup. It was a real wake up call. Girl from home was a little late moving down to college. So in her haste she moved into the new house and went for a night out with friends without meeting her housemates. Anyways, on the night out, she meets a guy and they hit it off. They go home together and do the deed. The next morning she wakes up in his room and goes to find a bathroom. When she's outside the bedroom she realizes she's actually in her new house. She starts freaking out because she had sex with this guy in her housemate's bed. She goes back into the room and in a panic explains the situation to the guy and tells him he needs to leave so she can clean up the room. The guy explains to her that it's his bedroom. In their drunken state neither of them seemed to notice that they were both bringing each other home. TLDR, girl ends up sleeping with a random guy who turns out to be her new housemate. My rich aunt let me keep an old stand of hers, but just for one night while she was away. Actually just 6 months or so ago, there were these two girls in our group of friends who I always kinda wanted to hook you with, but I never really pursued it because of the group dynamics and whatnot. We were out one night, just me, them, and one of our friends who is a gay man. Things are pretty much normal, but then they started to ask to see a D-pic because they had heard some rumors about my size. I was being kind of coy and played it off. The night goes on, and we keep drinking and end up taking a cab back to the girl's house. They were roommates. One of the girls and the gay friend go to bed in the other girl's bed, and at that moment I kind of knew what was going on, so I just rolled with it. Me and the other girl start messing around on the couch and decide to move to the bed where the other two are and proceed to have the sex next to our two passed out friends. The other girl wakes up and joins in for about 5 minutes. Then the guy woke up too. The rest is history. And that's how I had my first foursome as well as my first experience with a guy. Turns out I'm not a huge fan of either, and haven't done either since. Freshly turned 20 and figured I'd see what life was all about as I'd only really slept with girls up to that point save my high school boyfriend who I lost the V to. I go out to a club with my two friends, we drink, dance. This guy started getting touchy with me so I decided he would do. We stumbled out to the road, grab a cab to his. I clumsily explained that I've only ducked one guy but mostly it's been girls. Surprisingly lol, he says that's not a problem. So during the deed I'm telling him about the nastiest sex I had with a girl. He loves it. Good times. Morning I get up and he's like, I'll make coffee to go. I go out there and sit and he comes out and starts making references to last night. In particular to how this girl loved to grind on me and make a joke about being the best cheese grater. From over the couch I hear, Daniel, what the duck? Of course it's the girl. It's his sister. I left. He looked defeated, probably replaying the details of my sex with his sister. Sorry Daniel and Pelly, my bad. Not me but an old friend. He picked this girl up at the pub and went back to her house. While the foreplay was going on she suggested the use of anal beads on him, and him being game went with it. They continued doing the deed and just when he's about to climax she ripped the beads out, making him it on her bed. He immediately got embarrassed and ran to the bathroom, collected his thoughts and came out to apologize, and there she is rolling around in his it. Not technically a one night stand, as it was with an ex, but we hadn't seen each other for a couple of years. I'm watching the GOT S7 finale and get a picture message from her. We'll call her Rachel. I hadn't really known Rachel to be into bondage or anything like that, but the picture I got proved that wrong. All I see is her with a crazy grin on her face, wearing this leather piece that wrapped around her boobs and also formed a choker. No clue what it's actually called. I text her back. This is kind of how the conversation went. Picture message. F me. Holy it. Did you buy that? No. But I thought you'd enjoy seeing me in it. F. I do. I really do. You busy in an hour? Nope. I have my house all to myself for the night. F. Mind if I come over and blindfold you? Yes. Please do. And I did. We had sex on every surface available. My first and only experience using body oil. She let me take pictures of her blowing me blindfolded, and then finished me off in her mouth. We showered, fooled around some more, and fell asleep. I woke up the next day, went and bought some new tires for my 4Runner. She went and got a boyfriend, and that was that. Would do again. The one where I got stood up. I wasn't the 66 man back then. I was 18, in my second week of college. Back then I used to smoke every now and then. Like a pack lasted me about 2 or 3 months. I was waiting for the battery pack for my 360 controller to charge, so I decided to go outside to the little smoking table behind the dorms. 3 girls were out there, wearing dresses and high heels, hair done up, all that jazz. Asked what they were dressed up and they said they were going out, and invited me to come. We went to a hooker bar for a little bit, then started hitting up some house parties. By the time we get to the second house, me and one of the girls were pretty drunk from doing shots together. The other 2 had refrained, and we were sitting on a couch shooting the it. When I decide saying you have really nice boobs is a good idea. Luckily, she proceeded to say thanks. Wanna help me get them out of this dress? I did. So we found any empty room, did the deed and met back up with her 2 friends. As the night progressed and the other girls started getting more drunk, they kept giving me looks. I convinced myself it was nothing and that I was just imagining things. Eventually we made our way back to the dorms and went to my room because I didn't have a roommate. We were winding, passing around a bag of chips and chit-chatting. At some point, the girl I had slept with excused herself to the restroom. She comes back about 10 minutes later exclaiming I just sucked some guy's D for ecstasy. So we did ecstasy and I had my first and only threesome. I've told this story before, but I've only tried to have a single one night stand. I grew up fairly conservative, especially in sexual issues. I saw a guy at work, I'm female, and decided I was going to sleep with him. Be wanton for once. So, I set up a date to make my move. I failed at this attempt. Oh, we had sex for sure, but he just never went home. 27 years later, he's sitting next to me on the couch sharing Star Trek memes and talking about our child, who's only 23. That's not what happened. My favorite part of this story? I have a tattoo on my hip of my friends and my initials in a design. When he saw that, he asked me what it was. I explained it was the letters. And he looked at me oddly and said, "Why do you have my initials on your hip?" I responded with, "What's your name?" I guess we were just destined to be together. I used to meet people on the elementary school playground next to my house for hookups. Well, after dark with no kids around.